I'm Pam and I'm here to talk about video games. Today's video is about a new Metroidvania that I've been looking forward to playing for a while. Gestalt, Steam, and Cinder is developed by Metamorphosis Games, and this video is sponsored by their publisher, Fireshine Games. I'm going to be telling you all about the game and giving my thoughts on the time I spent with it. All of the opinions in this video are still my own. Gestalt, Steam, and Cinder is a 2D Metroidvania inspired by 16 and 32-bit classics. It combines platforming, exploration, and an exciting combination of both melee and ranged combat to use in enemy encounters and impressive-looking boss fights. The game is out right now for PC on Steam. You can use the link in this video's description to buy it if it sounds like a game for you. Gestalt takes place in the steampunk city of Canaan. In the opening cutscene, we're given a bit of history about how there was once a calamity and demons attacked. Humans reached into the abyss to use its power to create great armors. To fight the demons, they became like the demons, and how could that possibly go wrong? Years later, the survivors of Canaan are still dealing with the ramifications. We play a character named Alethea, a great warrior and mercenary who mostly cares about taking things one job at a time and keeping her town safe. But she's about to get pulled into a much greater conflict. Throughout the adventure, you'll be able to upgrade and customize Alethea while learning the long-buried past of Canaan and uncovering plenty of its secrets. I first played the demo for Gestalt, Steam, and Cinder over a year ago during a Steam Next Fest. I was really impressed at the time with the quick and smooth movement and how beautiful the game is. The full version of the game continued to impress me in those aspects, as well as how expansive it made the game world feel. Right from the jump, Alethea feels really good to control. Her movement speed is quick, her jump is high, and she can change direction mid-air and wall jump immediately. She has both a very useful dodge roll and a backdash, and they're two separate abilities on two different buttons, which I loved. Her main weapon of attack is a sword, and you can build up combos with multiple attacks. She also has a gun, which comes in handy in many ways. You charge up the gun with your sword attacks. Initially, you get only one shot at a time, but you can expand on that. You can control movement with either the D-pad or left stick. The D-pad works just fine for aiming the gun. You can also rebind all of the buttons if you like, though I found the default settings worked great. The other major important base ability is your health flask. You get 2 of these to start out, which refill at save points. Through finding upgrade materials in the game, you can continuously increase the amount of health flasks you get. One of the most unique and earliest abilities you get is the Tesla shot, which is an alternative to your normal bullets. This ability makes perfect sense given the steampunk setting. Tesla bullets help with combat by reducing enemy break meters. This can stun mechanical clockwork enemies. Tesla bullets can also be used to shoot switches, which open doors and have other effects. I really liked the combat rhythm of going in for a few sword strikes, then rolling away from an enemy to shoot and going back in again. There's a good variety of enemies, some human, some mechanical, some a bit more monstrous. I needed to adapt slightly different tactics for each, as some focused on ranged attacks while others had big shields and melee weapons, and some were quite agile and jumped around a lot. Boss fights are quite fun and visually impressive, both in their forms and their attacks. They all have pretty clear patterns they adhere to, and there's a lot of variety in the types of enemies you're fighting. I found I should play a little more defensively than I usually do in order to avoid damage, though because of how many health flasks I had, I could usually brute force things a bit. They are on the easier side. I think there was only one boss that I didn't kill on my first try. The game on the whole is on the easier side and is quite forgiving. You don't lose anything on death. Tethers are the game's save points where you refill your health, energy, and healing items, as well as gain an ability point the first time you use them. There's always a tether right outside of boss rooms. There are platforming areas where you can fall into pits, and these are usually clearly marked as bad places to fall, so you don't have to wonder. And even if you do fall in one, you just lose a tiny bit of health and respawn immediately in the last safe spot. Gestalt has a lot to offer in terms of character progression. Alethea gains experience where she can level up, there's a talent tree which offers you buffs and new abilities, and she can buy, craft, and find new equipment to wear. The talent tree offers a lot of interesting opportunities. As each major ability is gained, new portions of the tree open up to you. You can get basic things like increases to health or damage. I tended to go for nodes that increased the amount of bullets and accessories I could use. There are also a lot of new combat abilities like extra moves in a combo or adding status effects to attacks. You get ability points when you level up, complete quests, or visit tethers for the first time. There are also mechanical devices throughout the world that can give you extra XP, refill health or energy, or give you the game's currency, scrap. Scrap can be used to buy items and accessories. There are a ton of different accessories to collect, and when you find the right vendor, you can craft new ones. Consumable items in the game can do things like increase your damage or crit chance. I honestly didn't think to use them most of the time, which is something I experience in most games with consumables. I really only use the healing items and poison cures, but there are more options than that. In addition to following the main story, there are a lot of side quests to do. You can find these by talking to people you find in the world or picking them up from bounty boards. Quests are nicely laid out for you in your journal so you can keep track of them. There is the option to track a quest, but that wasn't as useful as I'd hoped. It just pins the quest objective in a text box on your screen while you play. The best side quest, obviously, is the dog quest. A horde of corgis has spread out throughout the world and found themselves in strange and often hard to reach places. You need to find them and send them back home. And of course, you can pet them when you do. There are a lot of characters to talk to in this game, and there is a lot of narrative. If you're interested in a story about secret histories and corruption, war and peacekeeping, and what people will do to keep themselves safe, you should be interested in the story here. However, if you prefer that action games just stick to the action, you might be a little annoyed by all the dialogue. I'm more of a just let me play the game kind of player in Metroidvanias, but the story was interesting and there were a lot of well fleshed out characters. Maybe a few too many proper nouns to keep track of. I really liked that story bits and dialogue were accompanied by large, detailed portraits of the characters, and I did find myself interested in where the story was going. There were a couple instances where I'd see a cutscene with other characters, play for 30 seconds, cutscene with Alethea, play for a minute, another cutscene, and these were pretty intrusive and kind of frustrating. But generally, the narrative was more well paced out. And if you're not interested, you can fast forward through it all by holding down Y. In terms of visuals and audio, I think Gestalt is absolutely beautiful, and the various biomes are unique and a joy to explore. The pixel art is great. I love Alethea's character model and how it's animated. Even while standing still, her hair and long overcoat flow in some invisible breeze. The sound effects that accompany sword hits or dodge rolls are impactful and satisfying. Different areas of Canaan range from vault tunnels to cities, forests to scrapyards and factories. The first zone is probably the least interesting to look at, but in every one after, the backgrounds have layers of depths that seem to span for miles. The colors are bold and vibrant, and I especially enjoyed the outdoor areas. The music that accompanies each zone perfectly fits the steampunk theme. It brings to mind a churning machinery, but also features sounds of string instruments and has a lovely bit of twang to it. I really enjoy the platforming and exploration of the world. There are lots of inaccessible places to note that you can't reach now but will come back to later that hide chests and items. There are plenty of shortcuts to open up in the form of locks to open and ladders to kick down. Fast travel also opens up later in the game. Platforming stays interesting not only by giving you more abilities over time, like an air dash, but also by varying up the levels. As you progress, you'll start to come upon more moving platforms, fans which can push you further than normal, fire or steam to avoid, and even an escape section that forces you to be a little speedier. The actual map in the menu isn't my favorite style, appearing kind of like a flowchart, but it's perfectly functional. One thing I do really like is that you can find vendors that allow you to buy add-ons to the map. These will mark things like chests or lost corgis so you can track them down if you're going for a completionist run. I always really appreciate a clear way to see what I've missed. Gestalt took me a little over 6 hours to beat, and I expect it would take another hour or two if I wanted to finish up all the collections and side quests. I had a really good time with Gestalt, Steam, and Cinder. The combat and movement are smooth, the pixel art is beautiful, and it's a nice tight experience that doesn't overstay its welcome. Gestalt, Steam, and Cinder is out right now, and you can use the link in this video's description if you want to purchase it. It's currently 10% off during launch week up until July 23rd. If you want to see more, check out one of my other Metroidvania reviews here, or another of my videos. I have a Patreon if you want to support the channel. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.